Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, this spring has been so much fun. God, we have been talking to some incredible people over the last few months, haven't we? We're really taking that deep dive into leadership and culture strategy. And I feel like this one definitely fits in that umbrella. We're simplifying how to gain synergy with your team's energy. So if you're a people leader or maybe even an HR manager and you are trying to get everybody on the same page and in the same bus and hanging down the same path, like this is part of that work. So my special guest today, her name is Vicki Landers. She's a physical therapist, a professional coach, and a public speaker who is fascinated by one simple question. Why do two people see the exact same situation completely different? Over a career that has included roles like a clinician, supervisor, director, and a healthcare strategist, Vicki noticed a powerful pattern. Our reactions are often driven by the lenses we're wearing in the moment, and most of us don't even realize it. So we got to ask her about those lenses. I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Vicki Landers. Hey, Vicki.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, I hope that we can nerd out truly, because you have got some really interesting frameworks that I don't know if our listeners have heard about yet. So this is going to be fun, really fun.
Yes.
So here we go. Let's talk about this concept of energy leadership index. For the listeners who are totally brand new to this idea, can you help simplify what that means? The energy leadership index, and how does it help us better understand the way people communicate and respond on a team?
So the Energy Leadership Index, it's actually an assessment that was created by my coaching program, IPEC. And this assessment helps, it's one of the few attitude assessments that are out there in the marketplace. So it doesn't like replace anything else, but it really adds a different layer of understanding of ourselves. So this assessment takes a look at what your attitude is towards situations in your life. So we can have different attitudes towards different situations, but it really helps us see sort of when we're having a good day, how do we tend to see the world? And when we're under stress, what we know is that we see the world differently. Things become much more narrow. So it helps people identify what their reactions are when they're under stress. And when we have that sort of awareness, it gives us the opportunity to step back and be like, oh, how else might I look at this situation?
Perspective.
If we don't know there are different ways to look at things, then we only see the way that we look at it.
Yeah. And gosh, I mean, I feel like this is really a bigger picture. We're talking about emotional intelligence here. Emotional intelligence, smashed together with communication skills. And I think that for me, I can only speak for myself. In my early 20s, I think I was probably on that side of the range of like, well, obviously I'm the person that's right. All the time, clearly, right? And then as you get older, you go, oh, actually, maybe not, right?
Well, and I like to think about it is that it's not really right or wrong. It's just different. And the moment we can start to recognize that different isn't always bad, different is just different, that's when we can start to like accept the teams that we work with and actually start to grow in a team, because then you stop blaming other people and categorizing them as good or bad, but you're like, oh, they're different. Okay, I might need to communicate with this person differently. Or it gives you a lot more empathy towards the other people in your team and, even yourself.
Yeah, because I again, thinking about my early 20s, Mary, would have probably just been a bull in a china shop trying to, power drive my idea or new project or pitch down the path and be like, this is it, guys. This is the best idea on the planet. Probably wasn't that kind of dramatic. I'm being a little silly here, but still, and not really being open to different or dissonance either, right? Like, because this is the idea, let's go.
Right. Yeah. And so that lens, the lenses are named by the program as 1 through 7. I've given them slightly different names.
Okay.
The bottom lens is the lens of victim, which is the, oh, woe is me. Why does this always happen to me? I'm powerless. But the bull in the china shop tends to be the level 2, which is the conflict lens, which means if I'm going to win, you're going to lose. And that's how we see everything as this black and white and right and wrong and my way, not your way. And the thing about it is that sometimes that's good. Sometimes we can get a lot done that way.
Yeah.
However, it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting to be that person. And it's also exhausting to be on the receiving end of that person all the time. So let's talk about these lenses. And I really want to be able to simplify this down. Could you actually run through the 7 lenses for us real quick, like what they are and the types so that people have a framework to start from?
Absolutely. So level 1 is the victim. I mentioned that, which is just the world, life is happening to me. I have no choice. I have no power. Level 2 is conflict. It's that I'm right, you're wrong. The only way for me to win is for you to lose. Level 3 is the lens of tolerance. I like this one. It's the silver lining. It's the lens of, oh, well, I'm fine.
Yeah.
We'll just get through it.
Yeah.
The level 4 lens is the lens of compassion. It stops being about me and it starts being about you. It's like, oh, is your microphone working okay? Are you comfortable? Are you all right? Can I bring you some tea? It's really all about the other person. Level 5 is the lens of curiosity and opportunity, where we stop judging things. We're just like, oh, look at this interesting thing that's happening. What can I do with it? Level 6 is that level of flow. You know, when you're like so immersed in things, time is flying by, you're in it all the way, and you like don't have a whole lot of awareness of what's out and around you. And I don't tend to talk about level 7 very much, because level 7 is sort of, it's a really theoretical level, and it's one that it's very difficult to put words to. So I don't tend to spend a lot of time on it. I spend a time with the 1 through 6.
Is it almost like enlightenment, like, you know, the very, very top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Like once you've really hit all the stages, you're in a different kind of almost, I don't know, transcendental space.
Yeah, it's like there is no reality at level 7. It's like this is, you know, there is no problem, there is no challenge. We are just one with the universe, and it doesn't really have a lot of cognitive awareness, because when you're in it, you aren't thinking about things.
Interesting. So then let's take those lenses, and thank you for breaking those down, because I find it so fascinating. And side note to anyone who's listening, they're like, oh my God, that sounded great. I'm on a treadmill right now. I can't take notes. Guess what? We got you covered over at the show notes. You can go back to thesimplifiers.com. You'll find all the notes from today's conversation, and any links or resources that Vicki shares will be there as well for you. So let's take those 7 lenses and think about the work setting. So how does a lens shape the way we interpret other people's behaviors? Because, you know, it's all well and good to be very clear on who you are, but then there's the mix of all these other people and what their lenses are on the situation. So let's go there.
So it's interesting to start to recognize other people. And one of the things I don't want anyone to do is to start judging other people. I want you to just be like, oh, that's really interesting. So you can work with somebody like my favorite example is like software. So your software upgrade happens, or I used to teach our clinicians how to use the software, and the person in the room who was like, I had destroyed their world. They're like, I can't believe you're doing this to us again, and this is terrible, and this is awful, and this is going to screw up everything. And I'm just like, so that's how you see it. They blame. You know, the conflict one, which is probably the most challenging, is they blame everyone and everything, and they don't take personal responsibility. You know, nothing is their fault, nothing is their problem. And so you'll recognize that. And one of the things that I find is when you can start to recognize that that's what's going on for them, then you have the opportunity to not take it on yourself and be like, oh, this isn't about me. This is that's how they see the world, and they see the world as right and wrong. And I've landed into the wrong bucket today.
Yeah. And so then is the lens in essence kind of like a coping mechanism? It's like their defense mechanism that's built up over time based on real life world experiences. You know, is that the correct way to kind of think about lenses?
I wouldn't say it's a coping mechanism. it can be used as a coping mechanism, but it's not specifically that. It's really just an approach to situations. So here, I'll give you a situation that's going on in my life currently.
Mm-hmm.
We had some hail, and my car got considerable hail damage.
Mm.
And I could have responded with, oh, why? This is just, of course this happened to me. I could respond with, well, why wasn't that parking lot in a covered parking lot? They should have a covered parking lot here. It is the building's fault where I had to park my car. Level 3. Oh, well, it is what it is. I have hail damage. I've got insurance. We'll just do the thing. I don't like it, but I'm going to do it. Compassion. Oh my gosh. Other people in this parking lot, they had their windows blown out by the hail. Wow, I feel so bad for them. I wonder how I can help them because they've got it so much worse than me. Curiosity. Ooh, I wonder what the insurance company is going to do because my car is 10 years old and they may total my car out. This is actually true. I'm in the middle of this right now. They may total my car out. What's the opportunity? Oh, this is my chance to get a hybrid and get way better gas mileage. Level 6 would be just, well, this is just the experience we're having. Isn't this interesting to watch what all is going on in the community? And I actually spent a really nice time talking to the people at the body shop this morning and about their experience because their business has like gone crazy because they're trying to replace windshields. And so one experience and lots of different ways I could look at it.
Totally.
And when we know that, that's when we start to say, because I noticed this morning, I was a little bit a victim. I was like, they may total my car. Oh, this is awful.
Yeah.
And then I bumped into, then I actually literally, I'm at I could get a hybrid. That's where I am.
Yeah. So again, just to point out the obvious, but it sounds like the goal is to elevate your lenses, like not to be stuck in phase 1, phase 2, but to actually over time elevate, correct?
Yes, because when we tend to see the world through the level 1 lens, we're like really restricted in what we can see. So the idea is to start to see the opportunities of what the other lenses might bring for you. Because as we taught, level 1 and level 2, they're exhausting. We go through life just upset and angry and fatigued. And when we start to pick those higher lenses, you could tell it in the way I was acting. I'm like, it's a lot more, life becomes a lot more enjoyable. When you start to choose the lens that's more compassion and curiosity. It's just it's a more comfortable place to be. And it can be a choice.
I feel like it's also a bit more empowering, like you have some agency in the matter of what's life is happening at me, so gosh, I am the blah, 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 to like, oh, that's interesting. Like, is there a different way I could experience this moment? Right.
Yes, you've hit it. That's it. It's like, what's the different way I want to experience this moment?
And so now coming back to work terms, right? I can imagine, okay, if you guys are listening to us right now, you have probably one person in your mind who is a definite level 1 lenser, right? Bring them up in your mind right now. Oh, lesson. How do you then deal with or help? Maybe that's the better answer for the statement is how do you help that person who is stuck in level 1, level 2 thinking and lenses? Because you can't fix another person. You can't control another person. You can't change another person. They really have to do this on their own, right?
They do. So when you're around them, because it can drain your energy. I mean, it really can. You can go from having like level 4, level 5 energy, and then you experience somebody who's at the level 1, and it can be exhausting. So the first thing to do is to recognize that that's their energy. But that is literally the first thing, and be like, oh, look, that's theirs. I don't have to own this. And acknowledge and validate. I am a coach, and we do a lot of acknowledging and validating, and just, this is where that person is. There's a lot of acceptance that happens here. Because as you said, we can't push anybody any direction, but the way that we show up can pull people into our energy. So it's not like a push, it's more like a pull. I like to say that Leadership is not a role, a behavior. It's not a position, role, or a title. It's behaviors. And so when we show up in the higher levels of energy, that can pull people into ours as well. Now, we're not going to force it on them. But when you just, be yourself and be compassion, be curiosity, that can influence the people around you. And when you show up that way consistently over time, not getting sucked into their energy, then that's what can start to change a culture within a team.
Yeah.
Recognition of who I'm being and bringing that energy into your interactions with those people.
Yeah, because I can think about this in two different ways. And I really, really love this framework. So bear with me a sec, listeners. When you have friends who are very much level one people, and everything's, they're a victim and the life is happening to them, you can sort of set healthy boundaries and go, wow, it feels like an energy vampire. I'm going to distance myself from that friend because I just can't. But then you're at work and you have to work with that cross-functional partner or that coworker, or gosh, for some people, that boss. You don't have the ability to distance yourself because they are a primary function of the people you interact with on a daily basis. What do you do then?
That's when we tap into our level 6 energy
and
we really lose judgment. It's a really fascinating process. So level 1 energy is like full of judgment, mostly self-judgment. Yeah. Level 6, we stop judging the other person and we're like, oh, this is an experience that we're all going through. And when you're like, this can't be done, but it really can be done. You can really elevate the lens that you wear such that person, you're like, yep, not my shizzle.
Yeah.
And when you start to really pick your own energy, other people's energy really starts to not matter.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating, it's a challenge to get there. It takes work. It takes understanding and really, reflecting on yourself a lot and noticing how you're experiencing things. Because when you let go of that judgment of that person who is driving you nuts, the person who drags down every meeting because they exist. But when you let go of that, they no longer matter to you.
Yeah, it's such good advice. And I think I would tack on to that. When you learn a new framework or tool like this, just sharing it with the group, not necessarily pinpointing a person and being like, hey, boss, you really should listen to this podcast about, lenses and team energy. But you say to the group, oh my God, I listened to this really great podcast about this, and this has given me some new things to like chew on. And you give it to the group, then hopefully it trickles into the well of what we are learning and how we as a team and our sort of unspoken rules of how we operate starts to get influenced, right?
And yes, and that's one of the cool things about if you do the ELI, so the Energy Leadership Index, with a whole team, each person gets their own individual results, and then you can do a team debrief, and we can take the results and put it together and get an idea as a team. How are you functioning? Are you functioning with the level 3? Are you functioning with level 5? Or are you functioning at a level 2? Because if that's how your team is functioning, you are not going to be productive. People are not going to be happy to be at work. And that really opens up some really nice conversations, but it makes it less personal. Anytime you have an assessment and you can learn about other people's, you start to understand, oh, this is why our team is having these problems. And it opens up that dialogue so that you can really start to work together and figure out how you want to manage this. And, a lot of times it does end up in individual coaching because they're like, I am contributing. Oh my goodness, I'm contributing so much to how this isn't working, or I want to contribute more. And so then you can start to see teams, have better awareness, better acceptance of each other, and they start to grow more in the direction that they want to for whatever the purpose of their organization is.
Yeah, it's super smart. And I mean, I definitely can say that that's where empathy and compassion does stem from, is that then you realize that other people's brains operate different from yours. That's such a duh thing to say, but we don't realize that. We just think that everybody thinks the same way that we think, and everybody has experienced this exact moment the exact way I've experienced it. And then I think that by having these conversations and creating, if you are the people leader, creating a safe container for you to have these conversations, then the light bulbs start going on of like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. Like, that's so interesting to me. That's where compassion grows, right?
One of the things that, I'm not young, and over the course of lifetime, finally recognizing that people don't think like I do was this light bulb moment. I'm like, and it surfaces everywhere. And it's created curiosity for me. And like, you don't think, tell me about how you're thinking about this, because it's so, everybody brings their entire life experience to a moment. And you're an expert in your life. I'm an expert in my life. But there's so much inside us that nobody ever gets to see. And I love to see that in people. I love to learn about people and discover how they think about things and what they're doing. So yeah.
Yeah. And, your background, I think, is really interesting in context to this conversation, working in the healthcare industry where, my gosh, like, you must be dealing with so much churn from high volume employees that you're constantly have this revolving door of new people coming into the space. But then also, healthcare is a high stress environment. And so can you speak to more about your career path and how that's led you down to the work that you're doing currently in healthcare?
Yeah. So my career path, physical therapist, moved into leadership, and then I shifted into IT strategy and analysis and did that for a number of years, which was where I got the opportunity to really think big picture about how all pieces fit together and how they fit together with the clinicians who were, needing to do the work. And so that's where sort of this interest of, how does the bigger picture of everything work together? That's where I decided to become a coach or learn, become trained in a coach, was I was trying to figure out how to better motivate and support the people who were working in my organization. And so it's just, I left that organization a couple of years ago. I've gone back a couple of times as a subject matter expert to do some things. But healthcare is near and dear to my heart because I worked in it and because I have an 87-year-old mother who I'm watching so much disjointed stuff happen for a geriatric person who is complex. And so I really love to see the bigger picture, and then bring it down to the individual level so that the individuals within that bigger picture can survive and thrive. Because right now, healthcare systems are a mess, and leadership needs to work on things, policies need to change. But in all of that time, there are still people who are doing the work, and they are tired. They are exhausted. They are burnt out. They are suffering moral injury. And so that's where I really love helping the individual while understanding that helping the individual does have an impact on the bigger picture.
Yeah. And I specifically think about healthcare in particular is that so many people, especially if you work, say, in a hospital or a clinic, you are on the front lines. You are then interfacing with patients who are now also dealing with the macro and the micro, right? All the pressure cooker of just life right now in this day and age. And there, I imagine this kind of framework can also go into play with how you interface with patients, how you interface with customers, what level of lens are they approaching whatever life situation is. Gosh, this is really making my little hamster in my brain kind of go into many different circles here. Imagine like customer service technicians, people who have to take complaints on phone calls. My God, like you're having to have that level of empathy and compassion. Like, tell me more about how you could see this framework playing for those people.
It's absolute. So one of the things that I say in one of my speeches is that it doesn't matter what you do in healthcare, you are touching the patient's life. And so that's one of the things I really like to say is that it doesn't matter if you're answering the phone, you're in marketing, you're in IT, everything touches the patient. So when you recognize how you're showing up and you're recognizing your purpose, so this is a big part of this, when you recognize your purpose in the organization that you're in, and you can say, yes, I touch a patient's life and it matters in this way, then then it taps into who we are, and then we can start to make some changes. But one of the things I like to think about with clinicians specifically is that I like them to consider taking a coach approach to interacting with patients and really understanding what matters to the patient. So tapping into our level 4 compassion, because most of the Energy Leadership Index assessments that I've done with healthcare practitioners, their primary lens is that lens of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's helping them tap into that so that they are more compassionate with the person in front of them. Because most of the time, specifically when you're in the hospital or you're in an ED, that may be the patient's worst day. You're dealing with somebody who is not themselves, and they are having their absolute worst day. And so it makes sense that they're going to show up at a level 1 or a level 2, and having empathy for that while also having empathy for yourself in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
So across the board, it doesn't matter what industry you work in, understanding how you see the world will really help you choose how you see the world, and will make an impact on the people that you interact with, regardless of who they are.
So getting back to creating that team synergy, imagine you're in a situation, a scenario where a coworker seems defensive or distracted or frustrated or just seems hard to connect with. How could you see using this framework to help us stop taking it so personally and respond more effectively in those moments?
I like to think about that there's a moment. Something happens and I have a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, that moment is this big. There's no space between the stimulus and the response. So I like people to just try to make that a little tiny space between the stimulus and the reaction. Because when we start to have that space, we can notice our reactions. And only then can we start to make choices. So that's what I really like people to do. And, when somebody does something and you notice you have a reaction, just breathe. Mm-hmm. Literally just take one deep breath. That can calm your nervous system down and allow you to choose how you want to respond. Now, if you want to choose to respond by yelling at them, that's fine, but only if you did it by choice. And that's where that space comes in. I'm certain other people on your podcast have quoted Viktor Frankl, and between stimulus and response, there is a space. This is the space that I'm talking about. And we can all find that space to pause and choose how we want to react. And I do a lot of, personally, I do a lot of future thinking. If I respond this way, am I going to be happy with myself? If I respond that way, am I going to be happy with myself? That's not typical human nature. We don't like to think about, what's going to happen in the future. But I think that that's a really valuable skill to develop, is what I do now, how am I going to feel about it down the road?
That points me back to an episode we had a few back with Terry Chilcote. She was talking about how to survive a toxic workplace. And she echoed the same things. Like when you're in that moment of being really triggered and, it feels like you're kind of hitting that fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, by creating a space to slow down, to self-regulate so that you're not firing back with vitriol, with whatever vitriol you're getting to you, makes a huge difference. And I think it's really great to hear this from another angle of slowing down, taking a breath, creating space in that very high stress moment. It seems like it makes a big difference, right?
It does. And we feel better about it. If we take a space, it's astounding what that space can do for us. And first it starts with awareness. You have to be aware that you're having a reaction. But we can start to be aware. This is something that I have people do, is like, notice when you're having a reaction, what happens physiologically? Yeah. Does your chest get tight? Do you start holding your breath? Do you clench your fist? What happens physically so that you can be like, oh, look, I'm having a reaction. All of those things that happen. We may have a message in our head where we start, yelling at somebody else in our head before it comes out of our mouth. Just noticing those reactions. and then make a choice.
And if you're a people leader or manager, so you're responsible for direct reports that look to you, you're the role model, right? You set the tone for how we as a team operate. So are there any sort of 2 or 3 kind of small shifts that people could make as a people leader that help do this, create that more synergy with the team's energy? What would you give them as kind of quick, easy things to try this week?
And the first thing is just be curious. And I have 2 curiosities. One, be curious about your own reactions. Be curious. Wow, in that meeting, why did I raise my voice? Or in that meeting, why did I let that person keep talking? So be curious about yourself so that you can start to know what's going on, but also be curious about the people in the room. Because as we said, everybody thinks about things differently. And when we bring genuine curiosity about other people, we get a different reaction from other people. Because when we want to know what's going on with them, it can bring their nervous system down, and it allows them to feel more present and more safe. So I'm about the get curious and take a breath.
Love it. Yeah. So again, if you're curious about the work that Vicki does in the world, you go over to the show notes over at thesimplifiers.com. You'll be able to find links to everything that we talked about today, especially her website, inprogresscoaching.com and vickilanders.com. Also, you hang out a lot on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for people to get connected with you?
That is absolutely the best place to get connected with me. And
perfect.
Or send me an email. Vicki at vickilanders.com is a great way to connect, because I love to meet new people who are curious.
Awesome. And also in the show notes, Vicki is very generously giving a 50% discount on an ELI and a 60-minute debrief. So yeah, all you have to do is send her an email with the promo code Simplifiers in the subject line. And again, her email is Vicki with an I at vickilanders.com. All of this is in the show notes over at thesimplifiers.com. So go over there to find that. So Vicki, as we wrap up, there's a couple of questions I like to ask everyone that comes on the podcast. And here we go, rapid fire. First one's this: what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
So I'm currently reading a book. It's called Elderhood, and it's by Louise Aronson, and she is a geriatrician out of UCSF. I believe is where she practices. And it's all about sort of how we look at aging in the US within the medical model and within the medical system. And it's confirming a lot of things that I've thought. And it's kind of inspiring me to try to think about other ways that I can actually be a stronger advocate within the healthcare system, to shift things so that as we age, because I don't know if you know this, we're going to age.
Yeah.
But as we age, we can have better quality of life. So that's what I'm into right now, and I'm probably 2/3 of the way through the book, and it's a great listen. I'm listening to it on Audible, so it's a great
awesome. We'll link that up in the show notes for you people if you guys want to check it out. Elderhood sounds an interesting listen. Thesimplifiers.com. So tell me, who is somebody in your network, somebody that you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast. Who would that be for you?
So that would have to be my friend, Anne Irene Ryan. She's just this extraordinary person who mostly she works with like college students and people who are transitioning into other roles, and helps them with like resumes and career, and helps people understand their personal brand and how to bring a personal brand into a job search and she's brilliant, and she's funny. And when she speaks, she's just a great person to know.
Sounds like a bright, shiny star. Like, I love people like that. So we'll link her up in the show notes. If you guys are curious about Anne, head over to thesimplifiers.com. I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I'm so blessed. We're just going to start with this. My sister is here in town. And getting to see her and hang out with her. I really like my sister, and I like doing things with her. So my gratitude today is that she's here in town, and she's been doing some genealogy stuff. And so we're cemetery hopping, finding gravestones and looking at family stuff. And so just getting to spend time with her is it's just really cool.
That is so cool. You can do like little crayon rubbings of graves, and that's so cool.
We didn't do that 4 days ago because it was 13 degrees outside. But tomorrow and Saturday, it's going to be much warmer. So we are going to do some of that.
Love it. So my last question for you today is this. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. This is going to be one that I'm going to chew on for the next few weeks. So I'm excited. Someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and they're thinking, wow, Vicki has just kind of called me out. I am level 1, level 2 all day long, every single day. And yikes. What's one thing you could whisper into their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
Be where you are. It's okay. Give yourself some grace, and you've recognized where you are. And that is an amazing step.
Vicki, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. This was fun. I had a great time.